Well, here we are on the Prosperous Musician. My name is Spencer, and I've got a very special guest with me today. It's Nick Dunn, who is. I had a little look at your Wikipedia this morning, Nick. You've been going since 2004, I believe, or 2006.
The company was registered in 2006, yes, but
Great.
sort of before then you're learning the ropes and preparing the groundwork. So
Yeah.
that's why we've got 2004 as well.
Yeah. Well, I reached out to you because I've met you before. This isn't the first time we met. Full disclosure, but it's been years, absolutely a long time. We met at something called the Birmingham Music Network, which were a series of monthly live meetings. Remember live meetings?
Okay.
Well, we used to meet up and talk about all things musical. And I remember you then, and I saw you on LinkedIn and saw Horus Music, and I've been aware of Horus Music, and I know you were involved with that. But I just thought, I wonder what's the story? What's Nick's story? So, thanks for joining me. Thanks for giving us your time this morning, and so let's just go back to the beginning. How did Nick Dunn get started in music?
It's funny you mentioned the Birmingham Music Network, because that was around 2014. That was a good place to meet a lot of people. And at the time I went, there used to be a lot of people from various aspects of the industry. So it was free. You got an opportunity to network and meet people and talk to people. So it was a good thing. And I know it's still going now. I don't know if it's still in the same format or not, and I've not been for a few years, but I certainly have happy memories of going to that every month and the people that I met. So it was good. For me, I've been involved in music for a long time, really. So before Horus, I'm a musician myself. So I was always, from the age of 7, learning instruments. I've got 3 grade 8s for trumpet, piano and theory music. I went to university to study music. I've played in orchestras, brass bands, all sorts of things I've played in, to be quite honest. It was a very traditional music route rather than the popular music route. But then later on, with those skills, it was nice to have something quite refreshing and do a lot of popular music as a horn player. I've taught music. But teaching's not where my I suppose where my passion lies. It's good to help people. It's good to get things. It's good to help see people achieve. But ultimately, I wanted to do something myself. I've always wanted to be in my own business and be a businessman. And so eventually, I took the jump of saying, right, that's it. I'm going to work for myself. What am I going to do? So this is where then places like the Birmingham Music Network, and there's other networks around as well at the time, came into their own for me, because it was a chance to learn about the industry side rather than being on the opposite side of the fence as a musician who never got paid, of course, as it was always the case. And as soon as you started asking for payments, people stopped giving you gigs. And that still happens today, really, for a lot of people. But from there, I was able to sort of learn the ropes. And at the time of going to Birmingham Music Network, I actually started to take on a managerial role with a couple of bands, one from Nuneaton and one from Glasgow, bands where you were really passionate about the music. And you ultimately do become the 5th member. But you really, you can proactively promote them, and you bend over backwards and do everything for them to try and get their profile raised. The downside to that was, of course, is that the income is slow. And if you've got bills to pay, like we all do, we all have mortgages and we all got cars to run and all the rest of it. And being a manager, you're running around the country all over the place. You've still got to fuel the thing. The money's very slow, and you can do a gig for an unknown band, but then they might only come away with £50 that night. And you take your percentage, you take your £10. Well, that doesn't pay the bills, so it's not a good night's work, really. So management is very, very difficult. So what did I do? Well, it's thinking, okay, well, we've got to raise the profile of these bands. It's not about just getting them gigs. It's part of the process. It's a very essential part of the process. It certainly was back then, and I argue it still is now. But it was, how can we raise their profile? And the way I raised the profile was to say, okay, let's get them into a label. Let's get them a label deal, and then the label's going to invest loads of money into them. And then you get loads of marketing and job done then. That was the thinking, of course, in my naivety. Of course, I couldn't get them a label deal because they just weren't established enough. The tide had well turned at that point. Bands needed to be, in essence, have a good substantial amount of fans. Labels weren't interested in taking on projects from the beginning. You needed to have fans. You needed to have some history. You needed to be able to prove that you could sell a lot of records. And this is, say, way back in 2004, sorry. So I became the label, which is really what ultimately led then to the creation of the business, because at that point I'm investing a lot of money. I'm borrowing money from here, there and everywhere to help pay for the marketing and the CD pressings and all the rest of it. So that's when Horus Music became established. So ultimately, our origins were as a label. And from that process, I learned quite a lot, really, because you have regular meetings with your pluggers, your press people, and all the whole team that you build around this band. And actually, we did quite a good job. We charted the band on the indie charts. I think it was 14 or 16. So we were in the top 20 for our first ever release. We sold a lot of CDs, believe it or not.
And who was what was the band?
So the band was called Latonic. That was my Glaswegian band. And even though they're not together today, I'm actually still in a regular contact with the guys. It's been nice how that first band has, produced a really nice friendship. Yeah, we sold a lot of CDs. I mean, you, as a manager, you sort of get to know your fan base, and you'll get to know roughly where they are and where you're going to sell, and did sell. But the problem was always with the distribution. How do you get the stock into the stores? And that was a big difficulty. And for quite a long time, you're caught in various distributors, these middlemen, who they go, oh, this is great. We love the CD. We love what you're doing. And I'm going, great, let's have a deal then. And they go, oh, no, what's happening next? And really, the question they were always asking was, how much money are we going to earn over the next few years? But they weren't as crude as that, but that's what they were trying to get at. And of course, me being naive, I'd be going, well, I have no idea. I just want to get this release out of the way and get it right, and then we'll go from there. So I never got the deal. And you can't keep paying for your press campaign. So really, once I set that release date, that was it. We just kept it going. But you've still got the challenge of how do you get the content into the shops? And eventually, I think it was about a month before the release date, I contacted Virgin stores directly and got hold of their rock buyer. And it was just literally by picking up the phone and pushing. And in fairness, he took the call off me. He said, okay, send me a CD. I sent him a CD. 2 days later, he actually got back to me. He said, like the CD, tell me more. So I told him, look, this is how many fans there are. This is where they're scattered. So this is how many I think we will sell. And he went, okay. He sent me an order for that quantity. He told me what shops to send the CDs to and how to do it. And that was it, job done. And believe it or not, we did actually sell those quantities in those stores as well. But you sort of think, well, if this is the issues I'm having, surely other people must be having these issues. At the time, Apple was the dominant force on the downloads. The other stores really weren't making any headway, so you have to find a way onto Apple. And again, I had the same sort of conversation with Apple. Please, can I have a contract? And they go, what, with one single? Go away. So then I had to go for a middleman. But then these distributors and middlemen, when you started looking at the T&Cs, it wasn't a very attractive way of working either, with them taking a long time to pay up. And I've invested all this money that I couldn't afford, by the way. So I want the money back. The musicians want the money. So this is how then Horus Music started moving into distribution and thinking, how can we do things differently?
And what
So
year was
fair.
this about? What
So it
year
was
was it?
216 when we set up, but obviously that
Okay.
preparation was between 214, 215 and 216.
Wow. Okay.
And it
And
was interesting.
you were
Sorry.
talking about, it's okay. You were talking about distribution stuff. So I'm just trying to sort of look on the timeline there, because I know you met you at Birmingham Music Network, who's now
Mm,
into like doing all kinds of online distribution and publishing and
yes,
online, support. But also there was another character, Lee Parsons, who created Ditto Music, who was
that's
also at the
right.
meetings.
Yeah.
So did you and him ever do anything together, or is it?
Well, it's funny you mention Lee because Lee and Matt, who run Ditto,
Yeah,
I'd say they're good friends at the end of the day, and I'm
yeah.
happy to pick up the phone to them, and they call me. We don't talk every week or anything like that, but we have occasional phone calls. We see each other out and around somewhere in the globe normally.
Mhm.
We can enjoy a pint together. And I have to say, there's been times when they've helped me out and I've been able to help them out as well. So it's been a nice relationship. Yes, we are competitors, but at the end of the day, there is room for many people, and there's no point in having a bad relationship. I actually like the guys from Ditto, and it's nice that you can see them on a night out sometimes and have a good time and have a good chat. And it's nice to have that chat because when you're working on your own, you start to realize there's problems. But then when you talk to these guys, well, actually, they have the same problems as well.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so it's a nice relationship with those. And the funny thing was, when I got my first office, we were actually in the same area, in the same building, in the jewelry quarter.
mm.
So, we've gone a long way back. And our very first medium, gosh knows how many years ago that was, 14, something like that. Again, Matt from Ditto and I actually shared a hotel room because we were both broke, but we were both wanting to go to this place that seemed like an amazing place to be. So, we joined forces together and cut our costs in half. And
That's
did it.
great.
Anyway, because we were both first timers, we both learned a lot and really built up a great relationship from that. And I should also mention, really, not just the Birmingham Music Network, but people like John Mostyn and Jeff Pierce as well. At that time in 214, 215, they ran a course at the Custard Factory, and it was by chance really. I went to this night that John and Jeff were hosting questions and a panel on, and I got John's attention, and he said to me, "Oh, we're doing this course coming up soon. It might be of interest to you." Explained it to me. And I was, "Oh, this sounds amazing." It was all about music management, and actually over a few months, they explained the nitty gritty of what music management really was about, not just about the gig side, but really what it was about. Introduced you to lots of very credible, well-known personalities within the industry, and that was an amazing opportunity, really. I think it was like 2 hours every Wednesday, where you got to hear from these guys on how the music business runs and meet people. So that was good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening in Birmingham, and he often got overlooked and probably still does in some ways. But we're kind of jumping around a bit here, and I've kind of stopped you mid-story before we came in there. So, but I wanted to know also that you were talking about briefly when the email you were talking about that you're based in Leicester. I think you've got is that where you are now today?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're in Leicester today, but you've also got offices in Mumbai in India. Is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so talk to how do you get from Birmingham, how do you go from Leicester to Mumbai? How did you get there?
Well, ultimately, the plan for the company is that we'll have offices in lots of territories around the world. We're a big exporting company. At the end of the day, we take music from all over the place. So our clients really are from all over the world. There's not many countries where we don't have people who've come to us to use our services, and we need to get out their music to, again, all places around the world, because they don't just sell in their home country, they can sell in lots of other places. So we export, in some respects, is the name of the game, and that's why we won the Queen's Award for Export back in 2016 or 17. It all merges after a while. So we went to Mumbai as part of a UKTI or DIT stroke BPI trade mission. India wasn't a place where we were doing any trade, to be quite frank. We weren't working with any platforms out there. What happens in India, it's a great big territory with 1.4 billion people there. Something must be happening there. So there was an opportunity to go on this trade mission. So my colleague Nina and I said, well, let's do this then, and let's have a couple of weeks out in India. I can think of far worse places. So that's what we did. We did that initial trade mission. We went a week early. We did an OMIS report, which you could do at that point.
And what is that?
Sorry?
What's the OMIS report?
Well, back then you could get these report commissions where they would sort of say to you, these are the important characters in this territory. So you ask them a question: who do I need to meet in India, or who works in India, or what's the digital platforms in India? And then they will then, you pay them for their time to make the introductions or whatever, because you have no idea, and to send an email out the blue is not going to do any justice. So they made some introductions, and for that first week prior, we just literally went and met all these people that the British Embassy had introduced us to, and started building up relationships. Then the trade mission started, which had a whole series of events happening, and as it turned out, we were able to meet these people again, but we weren't meeting them for the first time, we were meeting them for the second time, and we'd already had a long chat. So you're not snatching a conversation with them, you're able to continue the development of that relationship. And at the end of that trade mission, it was like, there's something there, we met all these tech firms. They thought this is really exciting what they were doing, and they were doing some things that we thought were very exciting that we think actually Spotify that could still be doing that's not doing. And then we were like, there's not really much in the way of competition out there. Yes, there's a couple of big boys out there. There's a couple of Indian platforms out there, but the way they're doing it is not very fair on the Indian consumers or the artists. So we could go in there and offer what we do and actually shake up the market. So that's why we then made a beeline for India. And it took us 2 years really to appoint somebody to get things moving. We didn't do it. We didn't spend loads of money or rush it. We just took our time, went back for a second visit. Yeah, this still feels right. Yeah, we'll definitely do it. And then after that, we then quickly started saying to people, look, we're looking for somebody. Can you help us? Any recommendations? And that's how we started in India. But, we still feel the same, really. It's a place of a lot of opportunity. The local competitors don't particularly offer a very good service or even a very good term to the artists. So it's like, well, we've got something here that we think is far better, so let's do it. But it's important to have the office, not just in India, but in all the places around the world, because like HSBC, who call themselves the local bank, we too want to be the local distributor. You can't. We have frustrations here in the office where people call us from all over the world, and sometimes you can't understand them. The phone line's not very good. They've got time zone issues, language issues. Whereas if you've got somebody local, if you've got a local telephone number, or you can even do a face-to-face very easily, you've got somebody who understands the language and can speak the language, who understands the culture, and all these things make such a big difference. I can easily get into trouble in various countries, but send an email that I think is perfectly fine, and then they come across and think it's terrible and offensive or whatever, just because of the way you've written it. It's all these things are quite subtle. So to have a local team in a local office is really quite essential for us as part of our global expansion. And India has been the test case for us that this is essential and the way the business needs to go. But yeah, it's great. I mean, India is a fantastic market. It's good fun. The people are fantastic, and the music out there. And I'm not talking about the Bollywood music. Yes, I enjoy Bollywood, but there's some fantastic music outside of Bollywood that's very exciting. So it's been a great discovery.
Great. So, so if I'm a musician, I'm watching this now, and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds really good. It sounds really exciting, and but let's talk a little bit more about what actually Horus Music provides for musicians.
Certainly. So we call ourselves a distribution and label services company. The distribution is basically if you own the music or you own the rights to music, you can upload it to our platform online, and we will then distribute it to around 200 different platforms globally. And I'm not talking about just your Spotify's or your iTunes. We go to lots of platforms that nobody's even heard of. Now, as a musician, you may go, well, that's not important to me. I'm only interested in Spotify. Of course, Spotify and those things are interesting and important to you here in the UK. But if you're coming from another country, actually Spotify is actually irrelevant. You might not even be in that country. So by going to all the local platforms, at least then musicians wherever they're based is having their music serviced at the level that's important to them, because some of these local platforms are very significant in that particular territory. And the nice thing about that is, well, some of our competitors have the same feeling. They go, it's not important, it's not a big money earner, let's not bother. Well, then that's great, because it means their content's not on that platform, but your content is. And when the local people are searching for new music, well, yours gets found quite easily. And then all of a sudden you might start finding that you've got fans in a country you've never even thought about before. And we do see that people having royalty earnings from places they've never done any work or ever been, but they're still picking up streams because people have just found them and like the music. So it's good money for that. So that's the distribution. We're doing music publishing in terms of not just the collection on the mechanicals, but we're talking about the syncs as well, or actively placing the placements of your music and getting the fees for that. We do marketing services as well. So we have clients that we do marketing services for as part of the package. And then we have clients who pay for our services. They actually pay for the distribution, but then they also pay for the marketing as well. And that marketing can be in the form of radio plug-in or us pushing you in various avenues just to help build up your profile.
Okay, that's great. So what's the kind of, so you mentioned a little bit about how Horus is different from, I don't know, something like DistroKid or even Ditto, for example. So it sounds like your unique, your USP is that you can get music into places that other people can't or won't, basically.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so you're talking about mainly Asia and India and further afield?
All over the world.
Mhm.
Absolutely all over. We're one of the few companies in the world, for example, that has direct contracts with all the platforms in China. Now, other people will say, yes, we can supply your music to China. Yes, they can. But the difference is they all go through a middleman. Now, it could either be a middleman out in China, because that was the common way of working in China. The first time I went to China, and you'd speak to the people out there, they go, this is how it's done in China, just like people did in India. This is how we do it in India. And I go, I don't care how you do it. This is how we do it. And that we've always stuck to our guns of this is how we're going to do it, regardless of what you say. And in China, you'd find a local partner. So it could be Alibaba or Tencent, who is the store itself. But then you'd give them your entire rights to that territory. And then they would actually service the competitors as well. So you think, hang on a minute, you are actually looking after, you're controlling the market really, and there's no market force. So when we went to China, we said to Tencent, well, that's great, we want the deal, but we're not going to allow you to control your competitors either. We will go directly to your competitors and do the deals with them. And they go, it doesn't work that way. I go, well, that's fine. Well, nevertheless, we still got those clauses taken out of the contracts, and we still got all those individual deals. And even some of the stores says, well, that's fine. Yeah, we'll give you the deal, but we're not going to support you. We're not going to give you any marketing. Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Let's just get the deal done. And then funnily enough, as the content starts coming in, they see it's good content and they go, okay, yeah, we'll give you some support now. And this actually, all that changed. So yeah, we were the one of the very few companies in the world that do that. So that's a great position, and that's something that we're trying to replicate all over the place, because ultimately we want more money back to the artists, and you need to have that control as well. The artist might say, no, I don't want to do a deal with them, or I don't want them to market me, but I do want some support from them. And that's what it's all about, flexibility for the artists at the end of the day.
So have you had any artists that come through for you that have had some success in other territories that they weren't expecting?
We do. So if we go back to India, we've had some big success out there all of a sudden. We've had, it's very hard to say that we've got an English artist who's had big success in India. A lot of markets these days are becoming a lot more nationalistic in terms of their music tastes. So it's a lot harder to parachute an overseas artist in and get big success. But nevertheless, we've had local artists in India where we've achieve some big numbers. For example, we had one artist out there who we did a release for, and we did 1 million streams in 4 days for that particular artist. And for that particular genre, it was the highest number of streams I'd ever had for the genre, let alone for in that particular time period. So that was a good success. But we have had some overseas artists going who've done quite well and some decent amount of money. They've not had the millions, but we've been able to get them some promotion on the platforms and drive interest in terms of numbers to get the streaming numbers up and ultimately get them a decent royalty check at the end of the period.
So is this streams on different platforms? Is it just on Spotify or on?
No, different platforms. The one thing we look at is when you're trying to market a person, we don't just send out a blanket email to everybody. It is a common tactic by distributors. They'll pick their top 10 and then just send that out to everybody. We go quite different. We don't send out a blanket email whatsoever, which actually frustrates people because they keep saying you're not keeping in contact with us with your up and coming releases. And we go, that's because when you hear from us, it's a release that we think matches you. So some stores have a preference for certain genres or type of artists or whatever. So we try and match the release to the store. So at least then when the store hear from us, they go, we haven't heard of it from a few weeks. It must be good. And on the whole, our success rate in getting people marketing is over 90% because we use that targeted approach rather than just a blanket approach.
Mm. So how would you, if a musician's coming to you and they want to, build up some online presence, they want to, get the music out there, how would that, what's the kind of a strategy that you would suggest now? And let's take in mind the COVID-19 that's happened at the moment. Has that changed anything dramatically? Do you see that happening, or is it just a little blip and everything's still the same as it was? I guess there's two questions going on there.
There is. Well, I'll combine it all. I suppose the similarities pre-COVID, and then there are similarities but differences COVID period, and going forwards there are going to be differences. Ultimately, you're going to release a piece of music, and regardless of your level, there are many pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that all have to be done. Now, a common mistake by artists who are less experienced would be just to say, well, I'm got my stuff out on Facebook, I'm tweeting, it's a Twitter and that's it really. So that's their marketing. And we go, well, what gigs are you doing? Oh, I'll do the dog and duck later. Oh, okay. So we always say to people, you've got to think about the whole package. First of all, are you doing a tour? And don't just do the dog and duck. Are you going to 20 places? Because 20 places, even if it's only 20 dogs and ducks, it doesn't particularly matter what the pub is. You're just getting out to different places and playing in front of people. And for us, statistically, the artists that do well month upon month are the artists that are out constantly gigging. And then when they stop gigging, their royalty rate drops. So there's an important parallel there. So we say to people, if you want to earn, you want to get the exposure gig, you might get some money from it. You can certainly sell your merchandise if you do a damn good gig. But you get exposure, you can get these people to keep streaming you and downloading you and whatever. So that's essential. We try to say to people, look, you need to start building relationships with your radio stations. This might be your first release. It might be a 10th, but if it's your first release, you've got to start somewhere. You're not going to get BBC Radio 1 or BBC Radio 2 or even BBC Radio 6, but there will be some local stations that will definitely play you, even if it's only, one play at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a start. And if it's your 10th release, well, then hopefully we'll get quite a few radio stations. But, the producers that are choosing the music ultimately need to start feeling like you're building that relationship with them. So that's where we try to say to people, it's actually essential. Don't just ignore it. You've got to start pushing for it and start building it. And even if you only get one radio station, don't be despondent from it. It's a start. At least you've got one and not none.
So you think radio is still viable, quite valid in this internet time?
It still is at the moment. Radio is still highly essential. like gigs were highly essential back before COVID. But radio, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people in the cars who just put the radio on and that's it. You know, we've always got music on here, whether it be Spotify playlists or the radio. There's always music going on here in the background, and a lot of places are in a similar position. And then we talk about leafleting. We don't find particularly effective. Taking out advertisements, we don't find, especially at a lower level, particularly effective. If you're Muse or something like that, that's a different matter. But for the majority of artists, these things are just not effective. It's just a lot of money with no return at all. Press is important because press can generate radio play. So we always say to people, you know, get the press going as well, even if it's just local reviews. And there's plenty of people out there that love to review music. Even if you only get 1 star in Kerrang, fantastic. That is fantastic publicity. And my favourite for one of my bands was a 1 star in Kerrang. I mean, I couldn't get any bands into Kerrang, but I sent out one release I thought was pretty good. He got 1 star in Kerrang and did quite well. Thank you very much. So, you know, don't get upset about these things. Cherish it, and I've actually framed it. So you know these, and you know there are people out there that purposely go out and buy the or seek out the artists who got 1 star because you know that's just one person's opinion at the end of the day. But it's, at the end of the day, all PR is good PR, isn't it? Really, even if it's only 1 star, it doesn't matter. It's still getting your name out there. And if your game is to get yourself a record deal from some big label down the line, well, you've got to get your name out there because there's people who are looking for new artists. They're searching everywhere. When people are overseas looking for British artists or what's the up and coming artists, again, they're looking at the British press. A lot of people, it's amazing how many countries people are looking at the British press. So if your name's not in there, you're not on the pitch, you're not playing the game. So that's what you've got to do. Probably excuse the banking, got builders in. Those are all essential things. And once these things start taking off, once these things start gaining traction, then you start to get the opportunities to start potentially getting some marketing support from the platforms, the digital platforms like your Spotify's and that. Now, the threshold for your Spotify and your Apple is extremely high and it's extremely difficult to get. You know, at the end of the day, they've got the choice and they always promote the people that bring in the big numbers to their platform. That's the way they work and that's the way it is. But there's a lot of platforms out there that's a lot more supportive to the independent artists and the artists still got some work to do, and those are the people that we'll target. And we say to these people, look, build up a relationship with this platform because they'll keep supporting you and things will only get bigger and better. So that's
Is there got any names of those particular platforms that you think are more sympathetic?
Things like, like Boomplay, for example, is a new store which has just come out in Asia that's at the moment is being very sympathetic to the independent artists. And it doesn't matter where we're giving them artists from, and I'm not talking just about local, I'm talking about internationally. They are embracing the artists that we're giving them and giving them some very good support. And I'm not just talking about a genre page, we're talking about front page and marketing as well on their Twitter feeds and things like that. So it's like, oh, this is fantastic. So, you know, and there's lots of other little stores that do the same thing as well. So why knock these small DSPs? You know, they might be small compared to your Spotify, but in that country, they're actually quite decent size and, you know, we should respect them for that. So that's how you have to work it. You know, places like Spotify and that have all got algorithms. But again, those algorithms, when they start to see traction, so if they start seeing people suddenly starting to press the play button and listening to this content and not skipping the content, the availability of going on to playlists starts to become a reality then. And if you go onto one playlist and it goes well and people are not pressing skip and they are playing, it might only be a small playlist, but actually it can lead on to bigger ones. And we've had that before where somebody's gone to quite a small playlist, but they've actually ended up on one of the more major ones at the end. And their number of streams has gone from 1,000 to 5,000 to 20,000, you know, all literally over a couple of weeks. So, but you know, you have to build these things and you have to have all the building blocks in place. And just by tweeting yourself once or twice or doing a Facebook post is not enough. It's about all the various parts of the jigsaw all coming together at the
So you
end of
still
the day.
think like the line, as you described it, the route is still like live, bit of local radio, build it up locally.
Yes.
So where does the kind of online stuff fit in with that? So like, what's your kind of views on, Facebook Live and YouTube and TikTok and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff? How does that kind of fit into that?
Well, it's a fantastic point. But it's all part of your marketing. We say to people, what's your YouTube presence like? And people look at YouTube presence, especially if they're looking to sign a band for a deal or something, or take them as a manager. It's not the end of it's not the overall riding factor, but it's an important factor. And YouTube are quite upfront about it. Make the most of the platform they're giving you by putting out a snippet every week. I don't know, for example, 4 o'clock every Monday, if that's the time your fans are the most engaged, that's the time you do it, whatever that time is or day. Just put something out. It could be a snippet of music. It could be a short interview for 5 minutes. One band member talking to another band member, or the artist maybe talking about a new song that they're writing, and this is what they're going through the mind. What do you think? All of a sudden, that starts to build engagement. I wouldn't use these things per se as a performance, a gig, but I think they're fantastic tools which cost nothing to get that marketing engagement, and they're just as important in my mind as the radio and the press and the gigs. They are essential, really. And every week, just get out some content. You can do it on your phone. It doesn't have to be on a fancy video or anything like that. Just record something to get people engaged. And YouTube are always trying to hammer that home, and we're constantly trying to hammer that home to our artists and get frustrated when they don't, really. But it takes time. It's not a quick fix. Don't go for these companies that say pay us however amount of pounds and we'll get you some traction. Don't do it. Just keep it organic, keep it genuine, and just keep pushing. And if you keep doing short 5-minute posts that are engaging and asking people to comment, and you comment back, or you could even do a live session even on Zoom like this, and then post that to your YouTube, nothing wrong with that, then it starts to build the traction for you, gets people interested, gets people talking, and then all of a sudden your marketing machine is rocking and rolling, really. But I mean, to address the live side of things, you've also got platforms out there that do allow you to do live gigs. Live, as I've always said, pre-COVID is essential. During this COVID period, obviously it's not going to happen for various reasons. We're all in lockdown, or have been in lockdown around the world. Social distancing stops that. And in fact, in today's Music Ally email that came out, there was an article on there about in America saying that 90% of venues think post-COVID they're all going to close down. So there's some real dangers here. Live Nation, at the start of COVID, were ringing the alarm bell saying we've got problems. And in the last few days, again, they started ringing the same bell. More redundancies and closures are going to happen. So the live sector's in for a very rough time. But there are other places to perform as well. It's not just about in pubs and all the rest of it. And as soon as these places open, then we need to be going into them to get these connections going. But for now, there are online platforms where you can do virtual gigs. You can do YouTube, you can do Facebook. There's also a British company called Gramophone who do live streaming. So you don't get the video, treat it like a radio. And you can stream a concert. You could do a 30-minute set, which is all streamed again. But the difference about that is that the audio quality is very different. So on YouTube and Facebook and all these other platforms, it's compressed. Here you can stream as much as you want. You can do an hour's concert if you want, but it's high quality. So your fans can get a really good experience in their own home, and that potentially may be where things will end up heading. You know, people are going to be scared to go out for a long time. Even when the pub's open, maybe the British might be a little bit different because they're probably gagging for a pint at the local. I don't know, but I think in a lot of countries they really will be scared and will not want to go out. So things like gramophone are a fantastic option. And the nice thing, and I mentioned this one because there are other platforms out there as a disclaimer, but with this particular one, it's easy to set up. You literally plug in you literally take the audio from your computer, and that's it. There's nothing to do. Download a very simple piece of software, choose your settings for where your input is, and that's it, you're off. It's free, so there's no cost to you as the musician, and there's no cost to the fans. I know the owner, because I've spoken to him, he's going to be doing some options where if you want to do a ticketed event in the future, that's going to be available, or even a donation button is coming on stream with that. But at the moment, it's free to you as the musician and free to the audience. So why not stream some gigs that way? I wouldn't do it as a snippet that you leave your Facebook and your YouTubes for that, but maybe once a month, do a 20-minute or a 30-minute live stream.
I could see that working with the audio books are so popular now, and people consume that way, don't they? Just on the earphones, they don't necessarily need to see the video. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And the thing about that is that once the gig's finished, it's finished, so it's not recorded either. So, you need to do it so that, hopefully you've got fans there that will be there listening. And if they don't join in, well, then that's it. They've missed the opportunity, and they've got to wait till the next time. So
maybe we could see a return back to the good old days where people huddled around the radio waiting.
You never know.
You do never know. Everything's going a bit.
Certainly for a while, it's sort of going to be going that way. I think, and we've said to, our clients during this particular difficult time, it's a time to do some housekeeping. It's a time to write some new music, time to record if you can, because some people can. They've got the good equipment to do that, or even just think about your marketing plans and just get these things in order, start creating the assets so that when you do feel ready, you can hit the ground running rather than making it up as you go along. It doesn't work. You've got to be planned. And, we see it all the times. We have people come to us picking up the phone and go, I've just recorded something. It's got to be out, and it's got to be out now. And we go, why? Yes, but it's got to be out. Really? What's the plan behind it? Okay, well, I'll sort the plan out later. Well, unfortunately, those people, when you look at their sales 2 months down the line, they've not made an impact whatsoever. They've barely done anything. Had they have held back for a couple of months and thought about things and planned things, they'd have a far different result. But the problem is at that point, because the music is already out, we can't do anything for them either. So we can't do anything for them anyway because they've not given us anything. They just want the music out. They've got no marketing plan at all. So we've got nothing to work with. And then when they do have a marketing plan, the stores go, I'm sorry, it's already been out 2 months. We're not interested. We only want the new stuff. Thank you very much. So, it's a wasted opportunity. So that's why we've been telling people to have, we've been hammering home that message that use this time to get things prepared for later. And I should also say, looking at the sales data for our clients, it's actually very good. Clearly, clients have been benefiting from their fans consuming a lot more on Apple Music and Spotify and all the other platforms. So it's been good that whilst people have been in lockdown, that people have been listening to a lot more music because our clients, our musicians, labels, that they are seeing the benefits at the moment.
So you're very much a guide, sort of a mentor for musicians, people who come and work with you and pay for your services. But who guides you, Nicholas? Who are you? Who do you look up to? Have you got a mentor? Have you got many mentors, or how have you navigated the?
So, a great start in Birmingham with the people I mentioned earlier. I don't have a lot of time these days, being a single parent and running the company, to do the things that I used to do back in 2014. Unfortunately, but I do have a business mentor So somebody I'll speak to on a regular basis on the phone, and every couple of months we'll have a coffee in London. And this was a guy who actually, like me, started a business in the music industry from zero, built up a fantastic brand, the Barfly, built up that entire empire, and then got to the point of then selling his business. So his knowledge and experience was was somebody that I felt I could have some good synergies with there, because he wasn't somebody just born into a position who then gets the CEO job without any experience. He's built up a company from the beginning, and got to the level of being able to sell the company. So he's somebody that I speak to. Ordinarily, we go to places like Meadham and Liverpool Sound City and all these other fantastic places, where you get to meet a lot of people and do those networking. So I get those short bursts of networking personally. And here as a team, here as a company in the office, some fantastic people. Yeah, I've got a really strong team, and most of the team are out and about, and we have lots of regular conversations. And I know if any of the team people say, this is what I'm hearing on the streets, it is very valuable, because they are a fantastic team, each and every one of them. So having that good team is essential to me as well, because that helps feed me and inspire me as well. And again, the teams in India and all the other places that we're pointing, they feed back to me information as well. But other than that, then I just, I'm like everybody else. I love watching The Apprentice and Dragon's Den. Yes, they might not be about music, but business principles, nevertheless, I still enjoy that. It keeps me grounded in what is this business about at the end of the day.
So is there anyone who you kind of any books you're kind of reading at the moment that about business that you feel
Not
inspired?
at the moment. I'm actually reading a book from one of our clients at the moment. He sent me a book a little while ago. It's been on the side for a couple of months. Who's written an adult romantic book. It's a genre of books I have never ever read. It's not my style of book. I enjoy business books and biographies. So I've read all of Lord Sugar's books, for example. I've read of all of Duncan Ballantyne's books and Michelle. What's the name? Michelle. What's the surname now? There's all these people, these business celebrities. I've read the books, but yeah, I'm reading. It's a book. That's. I won't go into any more details about that, but actually, I'm quite enjoying it at the moment. Something different.
A bit of Mills and Boon.
Bit of Mills and Boon type of book, yeah, by Betty Rose, called Keep Them Close. And I thought, when I read the title, Keep Them Close, it must be a business thing, because in business, it's about keeping people close. And they do say, don't they, keep your enemies closer? I thought maybe that's what this is about. And then when I started reading, I was like, no, this is definitely not what it's about. But
it's good name for a song as well, maybe.
Yeah. It is hard to sometimes put to one side reading time, because you're always reading. Every day there's reports coming. The BPI send out weekly reports about what's going on. Everybody's sending it, so you're constantly reading. So for me, during the lockdown, I'm actually trying to change my habits a little bit, and so before I go to bed, instead of watching a bit of news or whatever, because I've even started moving away from the news quite a lot lately. It's just, I'm going to have half an hour of just reading. So that's one of the things COVID has changed in me, really. Is actually to get some reading time every day. Yeah.
Great. Well, it's been great talking to you, Nick. I know you're a busy guy, and you've got a lot of people to make famous.
Try. Even if we can't make them famous, at least try and get some money for them.
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been great to hear where you're at, and a bit of insight into Horus, and to and one thing I didn't ask you actually to finish on, why the name, and is there a story behind that, or is it just?
The story actually it came from, it was a suggestion from an ex-girlfriend many years ago. So anybody who started a business will know the difficulties in trying to find a name for your business. It's a real head scratcher, and when you do come up with ideas, you'll start checking it out in Companies House and domain registrations and find they've gone, and eventually after probably lots of frustration to my ex-girlfriend, she came up with this idea. And there is, when you do the research into Horus about how he helped people, he's like, actually that resonates, I like this. all the names of free at company's house and everything else, and because of the story of Horus, I was like, actually, this is a good thing for us. So, that's where it came from, really, in short.
It's great. Right. Well, again, thanks, Nick. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to maybe checking in with you later on and seeing how things are going. And yeah, stay safe, stay well.
Thank you very much. Well, good to see you again, and thank you
Yeah,
for
likewise.
good to speak to you. So thank you for the opportunity, and you stay safe and well too.
Yeah,
I'll
no
see you
worries.
around soon.
Thanks, Nick.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.